Welcome back to another episode of the Next Level Minds podcast. My name is Chris Chapman, and I am your host. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast dedicated to those who want to reach a next level in their faith, in their family, in their fitness, in their finances, and embrace the American freedoms that we have in this amazing and fantastic country. And the way in which we do that is a couple different ways. First and foremost, we interview guests from all walks of life and really chat through their story of how they've gotten from point A to point B and overcame various adversities, setbacks, and failures along the way. We also host solo episodes where I talk through various personal development related topics like goal setting, habit formation, mindset, visualization, meditation, breath work, anything and everything under that personal development umbrella. But before we dive into this week's episode, which I'm super pumped about, I want to reiterate my main goal, which is to impact over 1 million people by helping them reach a next level in their life, right? And so how can you guys help with that? Well, share this episode with a family member, friend, or colleague. Leave a review of Apple Podcast and let me know what you think. And then you can message me on Instagram at ChrisChapChap. Give me suggestions on guests, as I'd be honored to potentially include them. Now on to today's guest. I am sitting down with James Oliver. He is the founder and CEO of Atlas Bar, which is a natural protein bar that he started really from humble beginnings. Out of his kitchen, he started it with really just an idea, and over the last 6 years, he's scaled it to millions of dollars in sales, and he's only about 30 years old. If you're looking for a story as to how a young entrepreneur went from idea to minimal viable product to actually executing on this idea, then this episode is 100% for you. And all of that said, these Atlas bars are amazing. They got 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, nothing artificial ingredient wise, and they only have a few ingredients in which you can all pronounce, which actually is kind of rare sometimes when it comes to the supplement industry. So before we dive in, I would like to encourage you to go buy some Atlas bars. I have been absolutely crushing these bars as I have been on 75 hard. The best way to do that is the show notes below, Atlas bars. You can go buy a box today. James is the real deal. He's super passionate about these bars. So go pick up some Atlas bars at atlasbars.com. Now, let's dive into today's episode to hear what James, the founder of Atlas Bars, has to say. James, thanks so much, man, for hopping on the Next Level Minds podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, dude, I'm fueled by an Atlas bar today as we're recording. I've had, I think, 8 meetings. I got a podcast doing right now, and then I still got to get the second workout in. So the fuel's coming in clutch.
There you go. It's going to be a good day.
Yeah, for sure, man. But how's the month of August been treating you? I know we're kind of starting to wind down the summer, unfortunately, but
it's been going very well. Very, very busy, but busy in a very good way. Just a lot of projects we're working on, a lot of things we're doing with Atlas, and yeah, just really going from sun up till sundown, which is how I like it.
Yeah. Are you one of those people who have that mentality of, that's just kind of what it takes to build a brand, to build a business, or what's kind of your perspective on kind of that hustle grind culture? Because you hear so many different opinions,
Yeah, I subscribe to that a lot when I'm 30 now. When I was in my 20s, a lot to the Jocko mindset. Yes. I think he was one of the first ones, and then Goggins came onto the scene, or came out a couple of years later, and really got a pretty big following. But yeah, getting up at like 4:30. I was doing that when I was first starting Atlas. I would get up at 4:30. I would drive Uber for like 4 or 5 hours, and then I would do the company during the day, and then I would drive Uber again at night. So it was definitely a grind, and it was driven by discipline. Now, honestly, I honestly don't feel like I need too much discipline to do what I do just because I want to do it. Like I genuinely enjoy doing it. I would rather do the stuff that I do that others might look at and call work. I would rather do that than do what a lot of people might call entertainment. Like it's more enjoyable for me to do some of the stuff than it is to like watch a show. So I feel that in my experience, discipline is only really required if you don't want to do the thing
Mm.
that you're doing because otherwise you just do it. You don't need to force yourself to do it because you're like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you find enjoyment in the actual like task at hand. Like I'm sure you actually enjoy maybe the creation of what you're doing or, talking to customers or building out a social media post. So it's like, oh, maybe it doesn't take as much discipline as like looking at an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you do like
Right.
doing that, but I personally don't. So
Yeah. 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 Like if you, I don't know, think about something that you might enjoy as like a quote unquote guilty pleasure. Like there's a show you like to watch. Like you don't need discipline to watch the show because you
yeah,
like
enjoy it.
watching the show. Yeah, you enjoy
Yeah.
watching the show. And so for me, a lot of the stuff that I do enjoy. Sometimes it is a good spreadsheet. Sometimes it's working on just wording something in a certain way that's going to resonate with customers or creating new products. But yeah, it's I'm just at a time right now where I really enjoy everything that I'm doing. So I'm just happy to do it as much as I can.
Yeah. Dude, and speaking of that, you started this in college, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, technically the company itself, like I formed the entity when I was, yeah, still in college.
Yeah. Okay. Man, so you mentioned those early days were also like driving Uber and stuff like that. So I'd love if you could kind of take us back to um I actually want to hear like idea phase. Like I know if you look at the back of a typical protein bar, you're like, what how do you pronounce like these 18 ingredients that are in here, right? I love yours because I mean I'm looking at it right now. It's like first off, the list is like only like this big for those watching, and second, you can actually pronounce every single thing on here. And I have a pretty low reading level, so the fact that I can pronounce it all is pretty cool too. But yeah, man, I'd love to kind of hear first, like, where did you get that idea?
Yeah, I was a big consumer of the category. Like, I think my freshman year of college, I was eating a lot of like pure protein bars and I was eating Builder's bars that Cliff made. And
You
I
ever
was
try those
always,
zone bars?
I did.
Dude,
Yeah,
the
I've
fudge
every
gram was
bar.
unreal, but like the ingredient list was like 100 things. So
Yes. Yeah, that's usually how it goes with bars, as you pointed out. Yeah, so I was always very into nutrition. I always really liked the relationship between nutrition and the body, specifically that like I like the idea that if you made better choices, you can actually change the composition of your body. I thought of
mm,
it like honestly, I remember thinking about this as a kid. I remember thinking like it's pretty cool that like imagine if you got a car, like got a Toyota Corolla, and just by the choices you made, like you could turn that Corolla into like a Porsche. Like that's very
mm,
cool. You can't do that with a car, but you can do that with your body. Like just through the choices you make, being like, I'm going to eat these things. I'm not going to eat this. I'm going to move my body like this. I'm not just going to sit around. Like you can dramatically change your body because it will adapt to whatever stimulus you hit it with. So I always loved that, and that resonated with me. That got me very into nutrition from a young age. So I knew that nutrition bars just kind of attracted me because I was into nutrition, and instead of eating a lot of other stuff that one might eat in college, I was cramming down every
yeah.
protein bar that I could get my hands on. So I had a good idea of like what was in the category, like what was out there prior to starting anything. And really, I was just trying to scratch my own itch, as they say. And I really just wanted something that was like real food, as close to real food as possible, but had the nutrition that I was looking for.
Mm,
So something that had high protein, as little sugar as possible, and was just made with clean, real ingredients. And the reason that those three things were what made sense to me was because I was just trying to like through all my nutritional exploration and trying to make sense of what was what because things shifted so much. Like when I was a kid, like margarine was like healthy and like butter was bad and then it switched and eggs were bad and now eggs are good. And so it seemed like there was very little consensus as to like what was good and what was not. I remember actually like avocados, like fat when I was growing up was like bad,
Mm.
but fruit and vegetables were good. But avocado is technically a fruit, but it's also filled with fat. So I was like, so which one is it? Because it's a fruit, so it's good, but it's filled with fat, so it's bad. And so I just spent a lot of time thinking about these things, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure about three things. One, I'm pretty sure that uh, people will always need protein because
Mm.
it's a biological requirement, and there's never been a successful like low protein diet because if you consumed a low protein diet, you would develop deficiencies and eventually you would get extremely sick. So we're always going to need protein. Real foods are better than processed foods. And I didn't think, and I still don't think that all else being equal, people would prefer to consume processed foods
Mm.
over real foods. And then the last was sugar. Like I just didn't think that, again, all else being equal, people would say, you know, this is great. Like I love this, but I wish it had a lot more sugar in it. Like people aren't looking, people, they like when things are sweet, they like when things taste good, but they just kind of accept sugar as like a means to an end to get there. They don't seek out sugar. So that's why low sugar, high protein, clean ingredients kind of became the triad that I started the company on. And there was just nothing that checked all those boxes. So I wasn't trying to make something. I was just like, this doesn't exist and I want it for myself. So I think I'm just going to try and make it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that you actually found like a problem that you're experiencing, and then you probably thought, well, if I'm experiencing this, there's got to be some other individuals out there that also may be experiencing some of the similar sediments there. So that's always my advice for aspiring entrepreneurs is like, figure out a problem that you have. Chances are other people have that. And so you found that problem out, you solved it for yourself. You're in the phase, obviously, where you're solving it for others. But what was the kind of the next step that you took there? Was it like, okay, now let me cold call some manufacturers, or like kind of what was that like?
Yeah, so the first thing that I did, because you can think all these things like in your head, and
Yep.
one of the risks that you have if you just put it on paper and you don't really get any feedback is that you're in an echo chamber, and
Mm.
that, yeah, this might sound good, it might sound great when you're in Microsoft Word or wherever you're writing about it, but it might not actually align with what people want. And so before I decided to pursue this further, I did kind of a quick test that didn't cost me anything, and I put together a survey on like SurveyMonkey, and I didn't even have the actual product at this point. I just described it in a survey. I was like, this is what the product would look like a hypothetical product. And then I cold emailed like a couple hundred at the time, like CrossFit gyms is who
Mm.
I was targeting. And I cold emailed a couple hundred of them and was just like, hey, I'm a student. I'm doing this project. Would you mind just spending 30 seconds to fill out this questionnaire and let me know what you think? And so they went through these people, and I got like 50 responses, and 100% of them said that they would be interested in purchasing the product. And so I was like, okay, that's a signal to me that tells me that like what I'm thinking of is not just this like weird idea in my head, and I'm actually getting feedback from a good amount of other people that this is something that others like too. And it's not just something that's like truly my own niche.
Mm. Yeah, and it kind of just validated kind of the business case that you've built out, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's like I think a danger of following the advice of scratching your own itch is that
Mm.
if you have a very, very niche itch, it might not scale into a business.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that what you're actually solving for yourself, there are others who are experiencing enough and enough of those people that it could actually support a business if that is your goal.
Yep. So, and then you got some validation. I'm sure that was like super exciting. You're like, all right, out of the Google Doc into reality here. And then you started like, kind of whipping them up in your kitchen, right?
So when I made them for myself initially, I made them in my kitchen. Um, Before I did this, before I had sent out the survey, I actually, the year before, I had gone to China for 5, 6 months, and I had lived over there with a family. And the reason that I wanted to make these is because I knew that going over there, my diet was going to look very different than it was
Mm.
in the States. And it did look very different. It was a lot of rice, a lot of buns. I would get, yeah, like pork buns every morning for breakfast. So very, very different. Like the skew of like carbs to like protein was probably inverted from what I was used to consuming. So I was like, I want something that can help me kind of just stay somewhat on the path when I'm over there. So I was like, well, like I want to find a bar that I can bring with me, and I just couldn't find it. So I ended up making a couple hundred of these that
Mm.
I had described, and I brought them with me. And then I had 1 year left of school. I got back to school, and I was like, you know what? Those things that I brought with me, I think that there could be a spot where others like me might want these. And so then I went forward with the survey. I sent that out. I was like, okay, I think there might actually be something here. And then once I had done that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna spend a bit of money, find a manufacturer who can help me make these bars, and I'm gonna see if I can sell them. And if I can't sell them, I'll be out a couple grand of my savings, and I'll have learned a lot. I'll have gone through this whole process, tried to start a business. And if I can sell them, then I'll just keep going.
If you can't sell me, have a bunch of bars to eat by yourself,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really like if you can get comfortable with the worst case scenario, then there's really very little risk. It makes it much easier to do something if you think about like, okay, what truly is the worst case scenario? And then if you're like,
Mm.
okay, if that's actually the worst thing that can happen, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, dude, I love that actually. That's super cool because I feel like sometimes you have so much fear in your head and you're building out these scenarios that aren't even true. But if you get honest and raw of like what's actually the worst case, and in yours, it's like spend a few grand, maybe waste some time, quote unquote. It wasn't a waste of time because it worked out really well. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? And then boom,
Yeah.
let's take some action. So, just curious, what are those conversations with the manufacturers like? Is it, do you have to like have like a pitch deck or are those type of things usually pretty open to like helping create a product, you know?
It totally depends on the manufacturer. There's a whole ecosystem of manufacturers in the country, the kind of
Mm.
backbone of the the grocery store that you never see. Like I think there's something like an average of like 50,000 products on an average in an average grocery store, and the vast majority of those do have a manufacturer somewhere that's creating it.
Mm.
So you don't really know about this, like you just never interact with it if you're just a
Yeah.
consumer. But if you get into the food system, you really see that like there's this entire huge industry of manufacturers that exists solely for this purpose of helping people that have the ideas that see market opportunity and that want to create something, help them actually commercialize it. So there are certain manufacturers, to answer your original question, there are certain manufacturers that you have to be at a certain level before they'll talk to you. Like they'll only, if you're like, hey, I want to make an energy drink, they won't even talk to you unless you're willing to order like 10 million energy drinks. But there are other ones that exist like for the little guys who are like, okay, we understand where you're at. We'll help you with the formula. We'll help you
Yeah.
make. They're basically looking to invest in you because if you're successful, then you're going to
They'll be
grow,
successful.
and if you're going to grow, then that's going to be good for their business.
Yep. Yep. And then I imagine like as consumer packaged goods products scale, they'll probably, shift manufacturers based on number of units ordered or something like that. Like get into
Yeah.
the 10 million energy drink example, like you probably people probably shift to that once the business gets going from economies of scale, I guess. Or do people usually stick with maybe the OG manufacturer kind of thing?
I think it's pretty rare that you would stick with, unless you're doing a big launch and you are already launching at a pretty significant scale
Yeah.
prior to like right when you launch. And there are some brands that I think do this. Like if you're a mega influencer and you have like 50 million followers and you're like, I'm going to launch whatever brand, like you probably can launch with a large co-packer to begin with. But if you're a normal person, then you probably have to, it's almost like the way that salmon like migrate up, you have to like jump
Yes.
upriver from like one to another as you grow as a company.
Dude, it is pretty wild to think about. Like, if you have a bunch of followers, you could launch like some random CPG, and you have so many people that look at your stories. Like, you could have so many orders. It's like so crazy where attention is, what you can do when you have attention and a brand, you know?
Yeah, although it's funny because I was having a conversation about that recently, and I do have a suspicion that the companies that kind of build themselves on that, the types of people who are initially going to place an order with like a influencer, like they probably are doing that with a lot of different people that they follow, so they might not be like the most loyal. So I actually was reading an article
Hmm.
earlier today about a brand, a really big brand that you would know that launched, and they are seeing like a 40% drop in sales this
Wow.
year because they saw this enormous spike because it was like hype driven, but that hype is not necessarily sustainable. And so it's not a house of cards because it is a legitimate business, but when you start off that hot, it's very hard to maintain that kind of like frenzy that
Yeah.
initially fuels the launch of the company.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. And your early days, because you don't have 50 million followers like some of these rare people out there. Your beginning phase was like you were having to drive for Uber, right, to kind of help get this off the ground.
Yeah, I was driving for Uber. Yeah, because
So
I
was that
had
right
like
after you graduated, or was that during like college?
it was
What was that
both,
like?
yeah. So
Okay.
I worked all throughout college. I landscaped, I sold knives, I Ubered,
You
I
did a
did
Cutco?
I did, yeah. I did
Yeah.
the Cutco. It was great experience.
Yep.
It's a tough experience because you effectively have to cold call somebody and within like 5 minutes basically convince them to let you come to their home and do like a 45-minute knife demonstration, which is like a kind of a wild thing in 2025.
Yeah, especially
And
knives, right?
yes, especially knives.
Strangers and
And
knives.
yes, and as somebody like I'm not somebody who's like naturally that comes easily to, so I had to
Mhm.
build up that muscle, but it was very helpful for me when I was then driving around CrossFits and I was walking in the front door and I was like, "Hey, are you interested in these bars that I made?" I had already exercised that muscle a lot, and like I know that's like you kind of use that as a metaphor, but it really is the same thing. Like in the same way that you exercise muscles physically, if you do the same thing cognitively, it is just developing that repetition and giving yourself that comfort with it, that conditions you to be like, okay, this is fine, like I can do this.
Dude, that's the same with like anything, honestly. Like we can pause right there for a second. Because, like public speaking, how do you get better at public speaking? You start, you do 5 people, 10 people, 15, 100, 1,000. Like you have to start. Same within your cold calling. Like I'm in sales outside of my podcast, and like to be able to take somebody from who I have no idea who you are to like interested prospect to this whole sales cycle, like that's a skill that you develop over time. My first cold call, I worked at Allstate Insurance in college actually. It was horrible. Like I was stuttering and I was like, da, da, da. And now I can pick up the phone and call any number you give me and have a high chance of actually like securing a meeting. But like it comes with the reps. And going back to what we mentioned at the beginning, you just got to get rid of that fear to get in the first rep, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and this is not new information. There are like so many quotes from like ancient Greek
Yeah.
philosophers who talk about like you aren't what you say, but like what you do. Basically, just like what you do continuously is what you become. And it's very cool how adaptive the body is. Like that's been one thing that I've really enjoyed about my I don't know like fitness
Mm.
journey is that I've done like very heavy kind of powerlifting, but then I've also done like very long distance, and it's because I just like kind of pushing and like exploring the bounds of what my body is capable of doing. And I'm like, it's cool that if I lift very heavy for like a couple of months, I can all of a sudden like lift heavy weights. And then if I run longer distances for a couple of months, like my body can now run
Adapt.
longer
Yeah.
distances. Yeah, I've just found it. I've always found it so cool how adaptive the body is, and if you just continue to hit it with a stimulus again and again and again, it will adapt to that stimulus.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. So you're doing this Uber, right? And you're
Mhm.
doing, so was it Uber morning and night and then bars during the day, or what was that like?
Yeah, it's pretty much what the schedule was. So I was actually training for a. It was a lot. I was training for a 24-hour race when I first started
Hmm.
too. So I would get up at like some days I'd get up at like 3:30. I would run like for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I would get in the car at like 5:30. This was in Boston, and I would start doing like the morning rush until probably like 9 or 10, depending on traffic. And then at 10, that's when like the gyms, because most of the people are coming between like 7 and 10 probably. So that's when most of the people are just kind of like the owners and the coaches are just kind of hanging around. So it's easier to talk to them because
Yeah.
they're not busy with coaching classes. So you can walk in and have a conversation with them. And those first couple of months, I was really focused on just trying to make sure that there was product market fit, that like people really wanted this product that I had created, because if not, then I knew I was gonna spin my wheels and waste a bunch of time. So I spent basically the first year doing that, and then yeah, at night I would get back in the car and drive again. And yeah, I just used whatever money I made to put into the company to help it get off the ground.
Did you sell your bars while you were doing the Uber or?
A lot of people would ask me, they'd ask me, they're like, so do you, I think some people want to like tiptoe around, like they're like, do you do this full time? And I'd be
Yeah.
like, like kind of, not really. No, I have this other thing that I started. And then they would just like ask about it. I would never, when somebody gets in the car, I would never be like, hey, do you want
Yeah.
a protein bar? But if somebody asked me, I would be like, yeah, this is what I do. And then people would they'd just be curious, and they would ask more about it, and we'd end up having a conversation about it.
Yeah. I guess first year like was probably kind of a grind financially getting this off the ground. So were you living at home or like did you have roommates or like what was that kind of
I
like during
lived
that time?
at a condo in Boston with my brother, and then I did move at home. I went home for a bit after that just because it was easier for me
Yeah.
to just do what I needed to do. So yeah, I think I was at home for the first 2 years, because I just wanted to keep my own, what I would call like personal burn, personal expenses at
Yep.
effectively zero, so I could just focus on growing the business.
Yeah. And what was kind of the pivotal point where you kind of got that inflection where you're like you didn't have to do Uber anymore? Was it did it take like 3 years, 2 years? Because I know you I think if I remember reading correctly, you hit 1 million in sales like within that 2 year period. But yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It probably was, yeah, about 2 years, somewhere in the 2 to 3 year range. There was no, I honestly, I didn't really have a plan for
Hmm.
like what I was going to do with the company. I always just wanted to try and do it, but I didn't have like a kind of a master plan for how I was going to grow it, or I didn't have like a vision for an empire I was going to build it into. When I initially thought of the product and I was like, hey, I think this could be valuable for other people, I really just wanted to, like, my goal was, I just read at the time Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week, which you probably know.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool if I could make a business, and even if I could just make like 40, 50 grand a year from it, but I had complete control over my time, then I would be happy with that outcome. So that was my initial goal, was basically just like autonomy when I started the company. So I didn't have like a strict threshold for like I need to get to whatever 100,000 in sales a month, or 200,000 before I am going to like move out or whatever. I just kept going and just see where it went.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot, dude. I like, being able to kind of scale down the expenses there. I want to go back to something that you said probably like 10 minutes ago, about like running and shaping your body. I think I remember when I was like looking at your Instagram yesterday, didn't you do like a bunch of marathon or like a lot of distance and have something happen with your kidneys or something like that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of distance things. I ended up in the hospital a year or two ago. Basically, my kidneys shut down. They don't really know what it's from, but I was in the hospital for 7 days. It was pretty crazy. What happens is your kidneys help filter the water. So I was drinking about like a gallon of water a day, which is about 8 pounds. So if you're not getting rid of any water in your body,
Oh, dang.
I gained
Retaining
like,
it.
yeah, I think I gained like 30 something pounds of water in like 3 days or 4 days. So I went from like 190 to like 225. And then I was in the hospital for like 7 days, and they put me on, they basically was like, I think I was on like, I know you have to drink a gallon of water right
Yeah.
now. I think I couldn't drink more than like 16 ounces of water. So I got like
Wow.
like a cup of water a day. And then I was on like pretty heavy diuretics, which basically just makes you like pee a ton. And so they were basically just trying to like squeeze
Get
me.
it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
just
an
like squeeze
orange.
me. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to squeeze me. And it worked. It did work. But yeah, that was that was no bueno. But yeah, prior to that, I'd done a bunch of just like long distance stuff that I
Yeah.
think is fun to do.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, that's wild. I saw that when I was looking at you yesterday. I was like, man, I gotta ask him about this because that's wild. I saw like the picture too. I was like, dude, that is crazy. So what's just curious, what's your like your branding strategy? Like, are you more like, let's get some influencers to help market this, or are you like what's kind of your approach there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we do a combination of things. We've tried a bunch of different things, and really we go with whatever seems to resonate the most. Like I'm a
Hmm.
big fan of just testing and kind of seeing what happens and following the data. So we right now, most of our marketing is most of it is honestly word of mouth. Like people
Yep.
try it and they're like, "Hey, this is great." And honestly, that's kind of the holy grail because you don't have to pay for it and it's organic. It's not forced. Like it's like if you're, I don't know, golfing with a buddy and you're like having a bar and he's like, "Hey, what is that?" And you're like, "Oh, this is an Atlas bar. It's awesome."
Mm, yep.
That's what you want the most. And I I think that the counterintuitively, like the best form of marketing is really making a awesome product. And people don't really think about that, but if you make an awesome product, like you don't really have to do a lot of marketing because people will just tell other people about it. Like Tesla, as an example, they famously have spent $0 on marketing.
Yep.
I think their company is like almost 20 years old and they just started spending money on marketing like last year. But because they just focused so much on making such a great product, they just knew that their customers would be their own advocates, be their own like quote unquote influencers and tell other people about it. And that's exactly what happened. So um, I think my preferred form of marketing is just trying to make the best products possible so that people tell other people about it. But influencers specifically, probably not in the way like the traditional way
Yep.
that you're thinking. And that it's kind of crazy how much that landscape has shifted, even in the time that I've started Atlas from like the 2010s era of like more Instagram influencers to now. It's funny, they've just kind of rebranded to like creators. Now it's
Hmm.
like creators. And it's all like TikTok and shorts and quick videos and podcasts, as opposed to kind of like artistic still images that kind of dominated the 2010s.
Yeah. And I feel like the market's so saturated. And I honestly like I don't really buy anything from creators, even if like not that I like follow many, right? But like if I do follow somebody that has a large platform, I'm honestly not really like, oh, cool, I'm gonna click on this link because I'm like, I never met this dude. Like,
Yeah.
but if I'm like you said, if I'm golfing with one of my buddies, he just smacks a 315-yard drive, he crushes an Atlas bar. I'm like, dude, I want some of that. like,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
a good
feel
point.
like for myself too is that because everybody like every creator or every influencer has some kind of commercial tie-in now, you just kind of become desensitized to it. You just become like numb to it because everybody has something and it just loses its efficacy. Like initially when it started, when like influencer marketing started like 10 years ago, it was completely new because I mean, the idea of having somebody endorse it wasn't new, but having like the idea of people who weren't like A-list celebrities was pretty new. But
Yeah.
now because everybody's doing it, I think it's just lost its effectiveness. And that's why, again, I think like kind of the most powerful form of marketing is having your friend, somebody you trust, tell you about something because you know that they don't have any ulterior motive. Like if you tell your buddy about it, he's not thinking like, oh, is this dude on commission? Does he like have an affiliate
Yeah.
link? Whereas
Yeah.
if you have like a influencer selling something to you, you're like, do they actually like this? Do they actually use this? Or are they just getting like a 15% kickback for every unit they sell and they're just going to be onto a different product next month?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point there. Um, Man, so let me ask you this. So what's how old is Atlas now?
It's 6 years old.
Okay, cool. What's I guess for things that you can share, like what's your next kind of 3 to 5 year, where do you hope the company would be?
Yeah, so we're working right now on a kind of evolution that I'm pretty excited about, just in terms of where the product is going, where we're going with how we talk about it in a way that I think is going to be pretty new to it's somewhat of like a new category of nutrition and
Mm,
food that we're going to be going into. And we're working on developing that right now. That should be coming out in the next 3 to 4 months. And we also have some products that we're working on that are also pretty new, and there's not really anything else like it that I'm excited about. So yeah, I'm just excited to keep doing what we're doing. I think there's a lot of kind of like under like momentum for what we're doing when it comes to clean ingredients, low sugar, high protein. Like
hmm
the things that I identified or that I spent a lot of time thinking about, and I was like, I think these three things are like pretty close or as close to a nutritional truth as you can get. That being low sugar, high protein, and clean ingredients. Like the rest of it seems like the rest of the kind of market, and it's become more mainstream now. Like you see like no seed oils in everything now,
Yep.
and protein is in everything, and low sugar is kind of table stakes now. And so those three things that I had thought about do seem to be coming like more people are more and more aware that like, oh yeah, I think each of these things is probably something that we should be more focused on. So that's definitely very helpful for the company because that's what the company is based on.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's such a big push towards clean food, dude. I mean, like, I haven't had fast food in I don't know how long, and I'm all about like trying to do single ingredient food and all that. And dude, you feel a night and day difference, honestly.
You do. Yeah. I mean, you literally, it's like, it's, it's something you hear when you're a kid, like you are what you eat, but
Yeah.
you literally are what you eat. Like the food that you ingest is what your body uses to rebuild and to
Yeah.
make the new cells that it's making. Like as we're talking, our bodies are making new cells, and it's using whatever you consumed over the last, I don't know, week in order to do that. So you literally are what you eat.
Yeah. For sure, man. How many staff do you have?
Full time, it's me and two others, so it's very lean, and
Okay.
that's by
Cool.
design.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it doesn't seem like you have like a large scale team. Seems like you're
Yeah,
just lean, mean protein machine over here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the goal. Yeah, it's pretty cool what you can do with a lean team. Like I'm sure like it's just getting you can basically make a larger and larger and more complex company as years go on with the technology that is
Yeah.
is now available. And I think I heard Sam Altman of OpenAI saying that he expects to see the first like one person billion-dollar company
Mm.
soon, just using like the tools that are now
AI
available.
components.
So yeah, it's cool just what you can do with lean people if you have the right people in place.
Are you tapping into any like AI tools or anything like that? Or
I use it a good amount. It's kind of hard to like get too attached to any tool
yeah.
because the landscape shifts so quickly.
Mm.
Like I feel like every time there is a new tool that comes out, a couple months later, like something comes out that almost makes that like
Yeah.
obsolete.
Yep.
And there's this like game of leapfrog that's just continually happening. So it'll be really interesting to see where the dust settles as the I guess industry gets more mature. So I definitely use it a good amount, just like the I guess core models. But in terms of like tools beyond that, we don't use a ton of like specific tools.
Yep. Yeah, I was just curious, and you said you're fairly lean with just a couple
Yeah,
employees. But yeah, I feel you. It's like once you try to learn one thing, it's like another one comes out, and you're like, well, now that one's kind of obsolete, right?
yeah,
So, well, man, where can people connect with Atlas if they want to hear more?
yeah. So Atlas Bars is our site. A lot of people get the product through Amazon. That's where we sell the most of them. Our socials are Atlas Bars, and yeah, those are all the spots. If you type in Atlas and Bars in most places, I'm sure you'll see us.
Yep. Cool, James. Well, this is an awesome episode, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully, it was valuable.
Well, that's it, guys. Thanks again for taking the time to tune into this week's episode of Next Level Minds and listening to what James had to say. I got a lot of value out of this episode when it comes to just taking action when it comes to your business or idea. That said, go check out Atlas Bars. Like I said at the beginning, their bars are absolutely amazing, filled with natural ingredients, 20 grams of protein, and they make you feel amazing after you get done with a workout or if you have a long day at work. Go check them out at atlasbars.com.